When I was a child, I had a strange experience that I didn't understand. Everyone I had ever told about it didn't believe me, saying that it must have been a dream, or I imagined it. Many years later, when I was at university, I told a new friend of mine called Mike. He told me what I had witnessed as a child was probably a glitch in the Matrix, a temporary malfunction in a world that we perceive as reality. It was late at night. I was lying on my bed asleep when the radio next to my bed came on all by itself. I sat up and looked around. The room seemed different. It was the same room, but more colder and gloomier, with what looked like huge flakes of dust floating in the air. Confused and afraid, I slowly got out of the bed and walked around the room. I held out an arm and caught some of the dust smudging it in the palm of my hand. Everything seemed cold and broken. I drew back the curtain and looked out the window. Even outside there were large chunks of dust, like snow, floating round the air. All the buildings seemed metallic, distorted, and out of shape. I turned back to my room and in a panic rushed over to the light switch on the wall and pushed it on. At first, nothing happened. Then the sound of static and distorted visions of my room flashed on and off before me. Then the light came on. My room had returned to normal. Warm and cozy with no sign of floating dust. I rushed to the window to look outside, and everything was as it should be. The whole experience lasted no longer than a minute. I couldn't sleep for the rest of the night, and every 5 minutes I got up to turn on the light to check that everything was normal. But ever since then, I seem to have a habit of noticing things that don't quite sit right in the world we perceive as reality. Some people say that time is a human construct, an illusion, a naive perception that doesn't correspond to our physical reality. This happened in the year 2001. I always walked to work regardless of the weather. It was roughly a 50-minute walk, but I enjoyed the exercise and found it relaxing, and used the time to clear my head before starting my shift. At the time I worked for a food production company. The job was pretty mundane, and at times my mind began to wander, thinking about random things happening in my life, and sometimes the time seemed to pass by very slowly. But this shift felt different. It's hard to put into words, but during my shift I felt strange, as if one reality had changed to another. As I stepped out of the building at the end of my shift, I pulled up the collars of my coat and began my walk home through the dark streets. It was raining and cold. I kept my head down to keep the wind out of my face. After a while, I remember approaching a street called Park View, glancing up at some noisy late-night revelers, and as I stepped off the curb, I suddenly found myself on a street called Hinckley Road. I stopped and looked back, bewildered and confused. I had just covered a 20-minute walk in one step. When I got home, I checked the clock on my kitchen wall. Instead of the usual time of 11:50 p.m, it was 11:30 p.m. I had gained 20 minutes. Was I so preoccupied with my own thoughts that I lost track of time? And was I walking faster than usual? Or had I entered through some sort of time portal? Every other Saturday morning, I help my mum do the shopping, and afterwards I like to have a music session, playing drums. The quicker I got the shopping done, the more time I had on my drum kit. On the morning it happened, my mum had got up late and was taking her time getting ready. As she made her way up the stairs in her dressing gown, I stood at the bottom, moaning at her for being so slow. I stood and watched her reach the top of the stairs, then turned towards the bathroom, and as she disappeared from my view, I watched in astonishment as she walked through the downstairs back door leading into the kitchen, fully dressed and ready to go. I stood still for a moment in disbelief at what I had just witnessed. I then ran up the stairs to the bathroom. No one was there. To this day, I have no rational explanation of what I had witnessed.